Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes, and what I want to talk to you about today is what I think is the number one thing that you need to grasp if you want to improve your life. Well, it was certainly the number one thing that I needed to grasp before I started looking at the world in a very different way and allowing myself to improve things. Essentially, your life is not going to get any better unless you believe that it can. Now, I've been there in the situation before where, the rut I was in at the time, I genuinely believed that there was no way that things could change. My life wasn't great. I believed that it just couldn't get any better. I was one of those guys that was always going to be a loser. All the things that I didn't like about myself, I genuinely believed that there was nothing I could do to change them. I genuinely believed that there was no way ever that I wouldn't be able to stop taking drugs every day. I genuinely believed that there was no way that I was ever going to improve whatsoever with, social situations and stuff because, naturally I am a socially awkward weirdo. And nowadays I am a lot better at that sort of thing. Nowadays I don't take drugs every day. So essentially, you need to believe that things can change before they're going to change. Seems really simple and really obvious, but a lot of people in the world today just believe that where they are is where they're going to be forever. And it will be if you don't find a way to believe that things can get better. I'm in a position now where I believe I can do anything. If I put enough effort to it, I can do anything. The fact that I am where I am is because of me, not because of some force that I can't change. If I had to put enough effort into it, I'd be a millionaire by now. If I had have started going to the gym earlier, I would now have a 10 out of 10 body, But if I didn't start to believe years ago that things were possible, I would not be as far along in my journey of improving myself as I am now. Now, there's actually something in our brains called the reticular activation system. And what this does is it filters out all the stimulus that we get from the world. And look it up, it's a real thing. I haven't just made it up. Yeah, it filters all the stimulus we get, from the world around us. Because if we were taking in everything we saw, everything we heard, our brains wouldn't be able to handle it. So the reticular activation system basically filters out what we see, what we hear, and only lets us tune in to the things that it deems are relevant. Have you ever been in a situation where you've heard a word for the first time and then it just seems like all day you hear that word everywhere, Or if you or your neighbour or someone gets a new car that you've never seen before and then you just notice that car is everywhere you go. Well, that's your reticular activation system working. Because you've sort of taken note of that new word or that new car or whatever it is, it then sort of, whenever you see that or hear that in the world, your mind tunes into it. It's not that they weren't there before, it's just that your reticular activation system wasn't focusing on them things before. So essentially, we go through life thinking that we believe what we see, when in fact, we see what we believe. If you surround yourself with positive people, if you make a point of trying your best to only think of positive things, if you actively look for opportunities in life, they will find you. Whereas if you don't, if you're literally just thinking negative all the time, not looking for opportunities, not surrounding yourself with positive people, then nothing will come your way. So essentially, you need to believe that things can get better before they'll get better. Now, that's easier said than done. I totally get it. As I've already mentioned, there was a time where I just genuinely believed that there was no hope of anything getting better for me in areas of my life that I wasn't happy with. But then I discovered the idea of living in the present moment. So what does that mean? Well, most people spend the majority of their lives either thinking about the past or thinking about the future. How many times have you been reminiscing about something negative in the past and even running through scenarios in your mind where that negative thing might have ended differently? That thing's gone in the past and you're still wasting time thinking about it over and over and over again. I used to do that I still do occasionally do that, where you literally, you've got these stories running through your mind of how something could have ended differently that ended bad. You know, it's a waste of time. On the other side of the coin, you've got positive things that were in your past, where you're not focusing on what you're doing today. You're just reminiscing about good times in the past, good times in the past, good times in the past, and building an identity out of something that's already happened in the past. Now, similarly, with things in the future, how many times have you sat there and wasted a lot of time dreading something that's coming up in the future? You know, dreading something that might not even actually happen, you know, dreading these different scenarios that may or may not happen in the future, you know, where you're literally wasting the present moment because you're fearful of something in the future. I know I have, loads of times. Or something positive in the future. You know, instead of enjoying the life that you've got now, you're just looking forward to the future. To the point where I've been in situations where it's like, oh, I'm not going to do this thing that I want to do until this, until that, until that. An example is, you know, starting a YouTube channel. A lot of friends of mine, you know, when I first started my other YouTube channel about 4.5 years ago, they were like, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel, but I'm going to wait till I've got a good camera. I'm going to wait until I know how to edit videos. I'm going to wait until I've got loads of followers on Facebook and Instagram. I'm going to wait until this. When what they could do is they could just start a YouTube channel like I did and just improve things as time goes on. Now, the reality is that a lot of the people that said to me, I'm going to start a channel, never did. And I'm really grateful that back then I didn't think like that, you know. It would have been quite easy for me to be like, oh, I don't want to put a video out yet because it's not very good. I don't want to put a video out yet because I haven't got a good camera. I don't want to put a video out yet because I don't know how to edit videos. Whereas thankfully, what I did do is I just thought, I'll make a video and I might not even upload it. I'm going to make a video. I was focused on make a video. You know, once I'd filmed the footage, it was like, right, I'm going to download some free editing software and start editing and just see how you go. So you know, you're focusing on the now rather than thinking about the future. And yeah, that's one good example where I didn't fall into that trap. And now, you know, I'm 4.5 years into making YouTube videos and now I've started a second channel. So yeah, how many of you guys does that resonate with, you know, where you've spent a lot of time either reminiscing about something in the past that's happened, you know, negatively, and, you know, it's not allowed you to enjoy whatever you're doing at the time. You know, similarly with positive things, how many of you have spent loads of time thinking about something positive in the past just to take your mind away from the fact that not much is happening in the present day? And again, you know, moving forward, how many of you guys have really, really dreaded something that might happen in the future that doesn't even end up happening, but you've already wasted days and days of your life worrying about it? Or how many of you guys have been really, really looking forward to something in the future just to take your mind away from the fact that nothing's happening right now? A good example of this actually is when you're driving to work. How many of you are actually focusing on the drive to work? How many of you are driving to work, but what you're actually thinking about is the row you had with your missus before you left, or the sex you had with your missus before you left, or you're dreading, you know, something you've got to deal with when you get to work, or dreading something you've got to deal with when you get home, or dreading some bills you've got coming up, or something positive like, yeah, can't wait till payday. You know, you spend, you know, days and days like thinking about something in the future. But yeah, the drive to work is a really good example. You know, how many of you can actually sit there and vividly remember your drive to work? Yeah, you don't. You're on autopilot. You know, your mind is elsewhere. You know, like, you know, turning the steering wheel and doing the indicator and changing the gear, you do it without thinking. It's on autopilot. Your mind isn't actually focusing on that. It's focusing on something in the future and something in the past. And what I learned and what I believe and what resonated with me is that a lot of people spend their whole life with their mind either in the past or in the future. And it causes a lot of misery. And essentially, the past has already gone, so it doesn't exist. The future hasn't happened yet, so it doesn't exist. When the past did exist, it was in the now, but then. When the future will exist, it will be in the now, but then. So they're not real. The only real thing is the now, what you're doing right now. So in some ways, if you spend your whole life with your mind in the past and the future, you don't have a life at all, which is mad. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with reminiscing the good times. There's nothing wrong with reminiscing the bad times. You know, they teach us lessons about what not to do in the future. And equally, there's nothing wrong with looking forward to things, making plans, You know, if you've got something, you know, not so positive coming up, you know, it's good to look forward, but in a way of planning for it, you know, preparing for it, not a way of dreading it and worrying about it and missing out on the now whilst you do so. So, you know, that brings me on to, well, how can we live in the present moment more? Well, there's levels to this. On a really shallow level, just things like focusing on what you're doing at any given time. Like stupid things like if you're having a drink of water, instead of drinking the water and, you know, you're looking at your phone or thinking about other things, just for the sake of it, when you drink the water, feel how the water feels in your mouth. When you swallow it, feel how it feels as it's going down into your stomach. Feel how that water hydrates you. You know, have you ever done that? Actually drank your water, not just drink your water while you're thinking about other things. You know, another thing, I mentioned the drive to work. You know, when you're sitting in traffic, just take a moment to look around you, hear the noises, yeah, whether it be other traffic, whether it be the wind, whether it be bird song, whether it be people walking past talking, you know, just take a moment to focus on everything around you in that moment. Now, I know it probably sounds weird, but it's a way of keeping yourself as much as you can in the present moment, in, you know, these little moments throughout your life. And then when you need to reminisce about something in the past or you need to plan something for the future, yeah, use your mind, do that, put it away, back to the present moment. Now, if you can try and just bring a little bit of that into your life, it's kind of like practicing not being drawn into whatever your mind is telling you, which usually is past and future. You know, recently I've been getting back on the exercise and going to the gym, you know, a bit more. And, you know, part of the reason that it's good is because, you know, when you're lifting a weight or whatever, like, you're forced to focus on lifting that weight. You know, you ain't got time to be thinking about something else. You know, so that kind of brings you into the present moment as well. Certain activities you can do force you to be, you know, in the present moment. You know, like in the summer, me and my girlfriend like to go for walks in, you know, the fields that are local to us, you know, and obviously we're chatting about stuff or whatever. But every now and again, I make a point of just looking around, you know, like looking at the trees, looking at the grass, like listening to the bird songs, like watching other people walk through the field, and actually like immerse yourself in what's going on in that actual moment, you know, like any little bit of that you can bring into your life, believe me, it makes a massive difference. Now, obviously, we can go deeper into this where you actively practice being in the present moment. Now, if I say the word meditation, it sounds completely weird and whoa, you know, like, believe me, when I first ever heard about meditation from people that I was listening to about other subjects of self-help, it was like, yeah, not for me. But then, you know, you give it a go, and essentially meditation, for me, meditation is, don't call it meditation, call it practicing being in the present moment, you know, mindfulness, whatever you want to call it. But essentially, I now sit down for 10 minutes every morning. I use guided meditations on YouTube where literally you sit down, you close your eyes, you listen to the person who's speaking calmly and telling you what to do. And essentially, all you're doing is you're focusing on your breath, fully focusing on your breath. You close your eyes, you focus on your breath. And, you know, when I say focus on your breath, you focus on the sound that you can hear of your breath. You focus on what it feels like for your chest to go, you know, inflated and then contracted. You know, you feel the aliveness of your body. You're present in that moment. And whether you like it or not, thoughts are going to come into your mind. When you first start meditating, well, in fact, it still happens to me now. You get thoughts in your mind saying, oh, this is stupid. What are you doing? This ain't going to work. This is ridiculous. You know, like, stop doing it. Oh, you ain't got time for this, you know. Oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got a busy day. And it's not about trying to fight against them thoughts, because the more you fight against them, the more they're going to come up. So it's not a case of sitting there and be like, don't think, don't think, don't think. You just accept it as a thought. If a thought comes into your mind, okay, there's a thought, and back to my breathing. And then another thought will come up, and then, okay, let it go, accept it, and back to your breathing. And that is literally it. You know, you're practicing not getting drawn into battles with your mind and not getting drawn into what your mind is telling you. And I find, like, it's amazing how much that helps you not get drawn into negative thought or, you know, into thought in general that's not going to serve you throughout your day. You know, it's practicing not having your mind use you as a tool. And then what you'll find is that when you're not being a slave to your mind, whenever you do need to use your mind, like to plan stuff or whatever, you're able to do it better, more efficiently, because you're not constantly following what's going on in your mind. When you do need to use your mind, it's more effective. An example that relates to that you hear all the time, you hear on the news where someone's run into a burning building and saved a load of people, and then they're interviewed afterwards, like, oh yeah, you're so brave, like, and a lot of the time they're like, no, it's just, I didn't think, I just did it, because when your brain doesn't have time to think, it's there, like, to use. Your brain will give you what you need when you need it more effectively when you're not constantly overusing it for stuff that isn't relevant or doesn't serve you. So I hope that makes sense. It's one of them things that it's kind of hard to put into words. You just have to kind of experience it. So I hope I've done it justice somewhat. I would urge all of you to go and study this stuff on YouTube. Everything I've learned about self-help and stuff, I've just learned from YouTube, and very few books that I've read. I'm sure other people can describe it a bit better than I can. But what I would say is try in general in your life to learn about stuff, experience stuff without judgment, because again, that's your mind sort of, just running away with you. Meditation's a great example. When I first heard about it, my mind instantly wasn't allowing me to give it the light of day. I was judging it rather than trying it, reading about it, and then making, a decision on it. And I think that's important about everything in life. If you want to grow and you want to get better, you've got to be prepared to open yourself up to all possibilities. Some of them you might not end up agreeing with, some of them you might do, and that's fine. We're all different, but you need to open your mind. And as I mentioned right at the beginning of this video, you need to believe that things can change. Believe that things can get better. Believe that where you are now isn't the end for you. And believe that you can do and be anything you want if you believe hard enough and if you work hard enough. Now, I hope this video has been useful. Do let me know in the comments if there's anything in particular you want me to make a video about and explain my opinion on it. Do let me know. But I've got loads of other videos coming up where I try and explain all the stuff that I've learned over the years that has genuinely made a big impact in making my life better. But for now, hope you enjoy the rest of your day.